It's the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, the Detroit Lions will take the field this Saturday night to face the Washington Commanders in the Divisional Round of the NFL playoffs. Washington is led by quarterback phenom Jayden Daniels, who along with his Commanders teammates are playing with house money coming into this contest. We'll review the wild card round, talk about the Divisional Round games, and preview the Lions contest next. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Brzezinski. Drew, it is Friday evening on the eve, 24 hours, just about 24 hours before the NFC Divisional Round begins in Detroit, where the Washington Commanders will take on our Detroit Lions. We're going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about the wild card round from last week and also preview some of the games coming up before that Lions game. But to talk about that and more, first joining us is Coach Andy Scheel of the Marine City Mariners. Coach, how you doing?
David, doing well. Exciting times, man. Exciting times on the horizon here. I just dug through the snow to get my blue floodlights ablazing in my house again. We the Yuletide, cheer. I love it. It's one of my cherished things is putting up my Christmas lights. But down they came for the blue. We're ready to go. Let's get this thing going, man.
Hell yeah, that's right. I saw the picture too. It looked good. We're also done by Detroit's finest, Justin Merriquin. Justin, welcome back, brother. We missed you.
Feels good to be back, and I'll echo what Coach was saying. This Detroit's just ready to explode in a good way with excitement and buzz. We got the auto show going on, right now as we speak. Our Lions play the Commanders, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. The city is going to be rocking. Generated revenue for the city of Detroit is $64 million this weekend alone. So it's just complete pandemonium. Like I said, in a good way. Like, people are just fired up everywhere you go. Heck, my neighbor across the street, he's flying Detroit Lions flag very proudly. It's great to see that when I go to work every morning, just, in the wind, just, seeing the Lions logo and stuff. So it's great. This is extremely, extremely exciting.
Yeah, the family. Last Saturday, the family went to the auto show. We went, Saturday afternoon, like right away, and it's so great to have it back. And it's traditional slot again, and
yeah,
and it's a great time. It definitely had a lot of the great feels, and a little bit. There's not as many. It was a little bit of a smaller as far as the manufacturers that were there, but they had these rides now. And we got to take a Rivian. Somebody took us for a Rivian and put it full tilt. We're flying around in a Rivian and an old Kobo. And they have some other cool things. Jeep has a really neat exhibit there. So yeah, for any viewers, we're done Sunday, right, Drew? Is that when that show wraps up?
I believe so. That's I believe so.
Yeah.
Is that? I think it's done Sunday. So yeah, definitely. I think. There may not be, though. I'm wondering, Justin, I just wonder how many people are going to be over in there around the 8 o'clock hour.
Probably.
What are going to be in there?
It's probably going to be viewing parties for the game. That's going to be inside there.
You're right. The Pistons already moved their game time up to 4 o'clock against Suns, I believe. And the Red Wings, I was watching the telecast a couple of days ago. Ken and Mick were laughing because Ken said, yeah, we got Tampa Bay on Saturday at 7. He goes, but we know a few of you might be a little distracted that day. And Mick's you check in. And it's like, yeah, it's about it, because it's going to, this only happens so often. And here we are, we're talking about 2 years in a row, right? Divisional round playoff game at home. Man, this is huge. Cannot wait for this. I know you guys are amped up for everybody's juiced about it. I mean, the Detroit Lions, I remember, Coach, we used to talk about this a long time, and the Lions fan base never really were a beloved fan base. You had the lovable losers in Chicago with the Cubs, right? And then they won their World Series. The Red Sox went 84 years, I believe, without a World Series. They were, well thought of fan base, still are. The Lions never got that kind of love, but I mean, Hard Knocks kicked it off, and then going from there, what Dan Campbell and company have done, and then the draft, oh my gosh, it's just been phenomenal. And the team's success, it's been an amazing turn. I never in my wildest dreams ever thought the Lions would be thought of the way they are nationally. Again, did I care about that necessarily as a fan? No, but it feels good. It really does. It's good. I didn't care that nobody really paid much attention, but it feels good that they want to pay attention now. So it's nice to have that.
Yeah, and I think you really struck the nail square on the head there, Drew. Bringing up the lovable losers of the Chicago Cubs, and when they had their World Series championship run, and it was amazing. It's like if there was a team that had to work harder to get that, there was this massive long extra inning game for them to secure that championship at Wrigley Field.
Yep.
And to have done that and to see all these, lifelong Chicago Cubs fans, some of which were, we can say all we want being 50-year-old men. And there's some people that are older than us too that have never really seen it.
Yeah.
60-year-olds that have never seen it. You were talking, if you knew anything about a Cubs championship, you really, was there anyone that alive that could almost really say that they could know about that game? The country kind of took on a little bit of fandom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a little bit of that going on because you know what? You just hit the nail right on the head, David. No one has rooted for the Detroit Lions before. We always have. Detroit always has.
Yeah.
But the country hasn't.
Mm-mm.
And it's cool. And we won't let go of it for quite some time. It's going to be around for a while. Don't you think, Justin? I think despite whatever is going to happen postseason, and that's for a conversation for another time when it becomes a fact or those become facts or whatever the case may be. This is going to be good. This is going to be like this for a while. Don't you think, Justin?
Oh, yeah. I'll go back to earlier in our group text, what you said, Coach, about the kids, today that are seeing the success of the Detroit Lions. Growing up, I didn't see, too much success, but, I loved the team. I didn't have the heart to root for another team. But when you have players, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, that, these aren't just players. These guys are very personable and, they love kids and they love the community too. J-Mo being out, going to Coney Islands and, giving, having a coat drive and stuff with David Montgomery and company. So these guys are actually fully ingrained into the community and the whole, Metro Detroit area. So, yeah, that's going to touch the kids, and these kids are going to grow up seeing this successful team because a lot of people might think like, oh, this is only like a short term. No, I think this is built for long-term success. Yeah, will we see like another, championship game or, a divisional round or something, maybe next season? Maybe, maybe not. But you're going to see some really good football, and you're going to see some winning football, which, all three of us have seen a lot of, bad losing football. And now that's flipped the script, it starts at the top, with Sheila, Ford Hamp, and then it goes on down, Chris Spielman and company. And then, of course, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, all those guys. So I think they're building something, all of them, for long-term success. It's not anymore the short term, like the shiny new toy, got to have it. Of course, we want to win the big one. That's the elephant in the room. But also we want to have long, sustained success. And I think that's what the Lions are doing.
Yeah, you guys are right. And Coach, Justin mentioned our text earlier amongst ourselves prepping for the show, talk about your own son. His fandom, he saw, the level of futility from the Red Wings, the Pistons, and the Tigers, from 3 years prior. And then the Lions, even when with Patricia and Campbell's first year, all four teams were struggling and some at epic levels, for themselves internally. And it's just, wow. We never had that as kids, even as young adults. We had down years, but there was always one team that was all, the Wings made the playoffs 25 years in a row. You always had that, and gosh, I feel for the kids that are about anywhere from 15 to 20 right now, but they're loving it now.
Oh yeah. And I work in a middle school. So, I get to see kids and true kids, middle school kids are kids still. And, every day, and just, everybody I saw today, I saw Hutch jerseys. I saw Penny Sewell jerseys. I saw Marvin Jones Jr. jerseys. Nice. I saw Gibbs jerseys. I saw Barry jerseys. I saw Montgomery jerseys. I saw Megatron jerseys. I saw Matt Stafford jerseys. I saw Jared Goff jerseys. I saw a 00 Detroit Lions jersey that just said Lions on the back. Beautiful things, man. I mean, these kids are in love with the Detroit Lions.
There was an Alan Alda fan there, or George Plimpton fan?
The George, that's right, from the Paper Lion. Maybe this 12-year-old kid's pretty heady. You know, she
I like it.
She knows that, but you know, just it's great. It's great, and you know what I mean. Hey, it's great. It's great.
It does. It feels good. It's to give people a perspective or watching this that aren't from the area. I mean, Detroit's a bigger city, obviously. I mean, the city itself's huge geographically, but there's almost 5 million people in the Metro Detroit area, and that's where we're all at. But it's got a communal, mid-sized town feel to it, even though it's a pretty big metropolitan area. But it's got a smaller town feel to it. It doesn't feel like a metropolis, like even a Boston or a Chicago, or those are places I've been. It's got more of a smaller area, like a Nashville feel to it. If you've been there, it just seems smaller and more communal, and I dig it. I mean, I grew up here. I came back. I really love it. So it's fun to see everybody getting involved and really appreciating this, fellas. Kings of the North, the Detroit Lions. We're in the divisional round. Lions are 15-2. Road to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 59 goes through Ford Field, no matter what. Do the Lions wreck other teams? I wanted to ask it before we jump into this, because we're going to talk about the wild card here. Guys, we saw the Vikings this year. Lions had to take them on. They were undefeated, and Detroit had their one loss against Tampa. They go to Minnesota and beat them. And the Lions had a habit of beating teams, and those teams would lose the next week. And the Vikings lost to the Rams, ironically, that next week. But then they rattled off 9 straight. Last game of the season, Detroit beats them, takes the North. Wild card, Vikings-Rams. Guess what? They lose again. And I'm wondering if Sean McVay might send Aaron Glenn and company a bouquet of flowers, because I think, Coach, Aaron Glenn laid the blueprint down on how to get to Sam Darnold and how to disrupt that offense. What do you think?
Yeah, and this is with a set of personnel that's not at full tilt with the Lions, and we threw a masterpiece together and really rattled him, and it became very clear that he was extremely uncomfortable throwing the football downfield, even in close proximity. I mean, he just became an inaccurate quarterback. And very ineffective on third down throwing the football. And really it was sight unsound, that Monday night game. I mean, the Rams were very impressive. They defeated the Vikings basically about the same score that we defeated them the week prior. And it was kind of a carbon copy. You saw this flustered, kind of panicking, kind of, mentally just out of, off schedule, Sam Darnold, and very inaccurate throws. And you're picking the wrong guy to do that with in his home field. Number 9, if you're going to be throwing inaccurate against him, that's when you need a run game. Because you got to keep going. Number 9's gonna do you good, and he did them.
Yeah, and and even though they were a home team, they had to go to Glendale because of the fires. But it looked like a good. They had a good fan base, and a lot of people were able to travel, so it was a good crowd. It seemed like it was a pretty lively atmosphere there, which was good for both teams. But
Rams paid, I think, for like a constant shuttle. I think they ended up taking something like almost like 24 buses.
Wow.
24, like starting at 6:30 in the morning, and they all got there for game time from LA. They shuttled them back and forth on these, paid for them. I think it was their season ticket holders.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. Interesting.
So I mean, but you're right. They did have a nice presence there.
Yeah. Guys, let's talk about, obviously we're not Vikings fans, certainly, but, we're football fans. And, we talked about how great, and Sam Darnold was great this year, no question. But, man, he got exposed. I would say going back, Justin, to not only to the Detroit game, but I'm talking about that Green Bay game the week before. I saw Sam Darnold under duress. Now, he was able to make plays ultimately, and he was able to get scores. And really, Green Bay's offense was ineffective that game. And more opportunities presented themselves. He was able to dig out of it. So, but that's 2.5 games really straight now against quality teams. Don't get me wrong, but that Darnold struggled. Minnesota's got a hell of a problem, don't they, Justin?
Yeah, they have a big problem, I think. Obviously, what's looming ahead is the decision. Do you keep Sam Darnold and do you give away J.J. McCarthy, give away as in a trade? And then also, what do you do with Daniel Jones? Are you going to keep him, around, or are you going to offer him as trade bait as well for other teams, some rebuilding teams, or another team where he can go be a backup that's better suited for him? So, and to your point and credit about that Green Bay game, the one thing that stood out that wasn't apparent in our game, the Lions, and then the Monday night game against the Rams, was the running game. Aaron Jones was and that was his old team, so he's a little bit fired up for that one. But he starts off kind of good, and then he just stutters like completely. So obviously at this point of the season, especially the playoffs, guys are hurt. I think he was way more hurt than, he was willing to, open up with. And then, the backup Cam Akers, who they got back, a second stint, and then a former LA Ram himself, he wasn't doing too much too. But like Coach said, Sam Darnold was just inaccurate. He was, throwing, away both to Addison and Jefferson. Jefferson was visibly frustrated, throughout the whole game. You have the best, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, and you're throwing 3 to 5 yards short, and he's waiting to get that ball to make a play, and he just couldn't make them, all game. Jared Verse did a phenomenal job. That guy is, oh man, you talk about a disruptor. He made Sam Darnold very, very uncomfortable that night. But Sean McVay and company, they had to have, sat down and studied the Lions, film against the Vikings, because they pretty much did the same thing with the secondary, and they bottled them up, pretty good. So, and there you have it. They just completely dismantled them. And I kept waiting for the Vikings to get something going. I'm like, come on, you got Jordan Addison, you got Justin Jefferson. There was a glimpse there with our old buddy TJ Hawkinson, scoring a touchdown, getting away. I was like, okay, because as a quarterback, you need to get a little bit of rhythm. You need a little oomph in your step. After that, it was nothing. So, yeah, the Vikings have a very, very critical decision to make here, in the coming months. So I don't know where they go, honestly, with Sam Darnold.
And Coach, with JJ McCarthy's obviously that's the big elephant in the room. You've got your first round pick from this year ready and waiting. He was supposed to be the guy this year. He had the knee injury. I mean, we've talked about they could franchise Darnold, which probably still is a safe move. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? What would you do in this situation?
Well, I mean, I think they kind of have their plan in place. I mean, they've got McCarthy. And I think he just kind of, I think, you go, you play it, for the next year. I mean, you can do what you want with Sam Darnold if you want to franchise him and go one more opportunity and really make this kind of your thorough thing and show some loyalty to him, to see if that's indeed what you want to do. And, let's face it, it's McCarthy didn't play at all this year. He didn't really practice too much. I mean, he had to have surgery. I mean, he's still kind of he's still a rookie.
Yeah.
And, so, I mean, really, it'd still be a great year to cultivate him and allow him to grow some more. So there's some responsibility being taken by the organization that way too, in developing him when he can actually physically still play, and really show some loyalty to Sam Darnold, that really is not presented itself in his stops too much yet. But if Sam Darnold were to falter once again, or not get out of the gates, or show some inconsistencies and become kind of, like you had said, figured out, well, then there would be a switch of those roles probably at some point in time next year, and J.J. McCarthy's the starting quarterback of the Vikings. So that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, and I agree. I think they'll play it safe. They'll keep Darnold on a franchise tag. I think that's smart. That's the safest thing to do, because the last thing you want to do is say, yeah, we're gonna cut bait with Darnold, and then we're gonna go with McCarthy, and all of a sudden Darnold lights it up somewhere else because he's found his game. I mean, we got a guy number 16 that was given up on too. Now, mind you, he had a little more success than Darnold did, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, Jared Goff's pretty good. Sam Darnold, he late bloomer, obviously, but he had a hell of a season. It's tough. He was very impressive this year, so I would agree with you guys in general. But Minnesota, they got a tough decision because they have to pay a lot of money for the quarterback position this year. Boo-hoo. So it looks like they won't be making an impact in free agency. But hey, guys, let's talk about the wild card round real quick before we start previewing the divisional round. And Coach, I'll start with you. Any surprise in the AFC that you saw in the first round?
Ultimately, no. I think it really played itself out. I expected the Bills to win. And just the way things had been going, as far as Baltimore and Pittsburgh, that played out, I think, fairly. I don't think there's too many surprises there. I guess if there was a mild surprise, it would be the Houston game over the Chargers. We had talked a little bit going into that one, thinking maybe the Chargers could get that one. And I certainly, I think I was one of those guys. Yeah. But ultimately, I'm not surprised. I mean, you have, D'Amico Ryans is a great young coach and a defensive-minded guy, and that the defense is, his blueprinted defense, and they did a great job in making, Justin Herbert, feel uncomfortable, and Coach Harbaugh even said, they did the number, and he feels outcoached, in regards to how things transpired with the Chargers offense. Hey, we know that, CJ Stroud is a great young quarterback, and, they've been decimated by injury in certain areas, and their receiving core is certainly not the strength of that team that it, is when they're healthy. So, hey, that was a great victory. So, but, ultimately they're also the higher seed. So, I mean, is it too much of a surprise? No, I don't think so. But I guess if there was one, it would have been that one.
Yeah, and I picked the Chargers as well, but not shocked by that. I really went with that game because I really felt Houston was coming in kind of not hot, and the Chargers had a little bit of a win streak coming in, and it seemed like they had the hot hand. And realistically, but Houston's defense was just swarming. I mean, they showed that against Detroit too. In the first half of that game, at least, they were very fast. They're an impressive defense, and now with Stroud finding his rhythm, look out. I agree with Coach. Not a lot of surprise in the AFC. Obviously, the top seeds all play one out, so no shocks. Justin, I'll start with you with the NFC, though. Any surprises there?
No, not really. And I had myself tabbed the Commanders beating the Buccaneers if there was going to be an upset, just because of the style of matchup. And Jayden Daniels just a phenomenal athlete. Not only a quarterback but as an athlete, he's still learning. And Commanders, they played good ball. And Baker Mayfield just he had that one little stumble on that handoff, and that ultimately cost them the game. But the Commanders, I mean, every single possession, whether it was offense or defense that their team was on, they were just giving it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they drew up some really good plays. And then on defense, they were just lights out. They were just, Mike Evans was getting his and whatnot, Kate Otten, the tight end, Bucky Irving, but they just didn't break completely. They stuck to the game plan. You could tell of what they went over that whole week of practice, and it paid off for them. They won the game, rightfully so, outright. And that was probably, the only surprise there. The other games, like I said, I watched the Vikings and the Rams game. Had a little glimmer of hope that the Vikings could get it together, but Stafford's just red hot right now, and the way that he's throwing the football and finding his receivers, it's unreal. We'll see, moving forward, though. I believe they'll be without Tyler Higbee, that's like Stafford's safety valve. So, he's just suffering, injury after injury. So we'll see how that goes. And then, the Eagles and the Packers game, once Jalen Hurts was activated, I was like, well, the only shot they would really have the Packers if Hurts, gets hurt, in the game, another style of concussion and whatnot. But we just saw, dismantling there, completely. So, that's just a good football team. Philly's flat out, give them credit. They're complete, football team.
Yeah. Oh, no.
But they're beatable. They're not, I don't think that they're just, the scary big monster, you still give them respect, obviously with Saquon Barkley and company. But I do think, watching some things in that Green Bay game that they are beatable.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But yeah, good synopsis. Hey, Coach, before I get your take on it, we got Barry Sanders back there, don't we?
I tell you what, this is a special episode. I mean,
He's a champ.
We're talking about this is a Detroit Lion. I mean, when we're talking about everybody's glued, we have 10-year-old Boston Terriers that are getting on podcasts talking about Detroit Lions. This is Barry Sanders, Shield. He is a Boston Terrier. He's wearing his Detroit Lions collar he's had since birth. He's a big fan. He made this appearance on his own. He's oftentimes snuck in on a couple of episodes, but always kind of takes a peek out the window and wants to head back out. This time he hopped up and made sure his camera presence was felt. So, I mean, he's going to be in and out of the scene here, folks. But,
he knows what's at stake tomorrow.
But you know what we can say here, Drew?
Yeah, what's that?
What we can say. You can put this in the byline on, ESEN. You're welcome. Roku channel, you're welcome. Barry Sanders is on our podcast.
This is true. This is true. I just won't add him because wink, wink, right?
No,
that's cool. He's cool. He's a cool guy. He's a champion. Hey, but Coach, and now getting back to the wild card NFC, were you surprised by any of the results?
I like Justin. I felt very strongly about the Commanders winning that football game. And I think the world of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that's a very, very good franchise. They've really been steadfast this 21st century. They've been pretty good, for the vast majority of it. And they are not right for the Detroit Lions. I'll tell you that much. Where it's a tough matchup for us. And, I think, they're going to be an NFC South competitor and contender for some time to come based off of that defense. Baker Mayfield, who I think, deserves definitely a little bit more run there. And you've got a Hall of Fame receiver and another great one underneath and some good young ones like Jalen McMillan. You said K-Dot and Bucky Irving. He showed out real good, Remember, I think Leonard Fournette was the running back when they won the Super Bowl. He wore number 7. They have a new number 7. That's Bucky Irving. He looked real good. But I ultimately really did feel strongly about the Commanders. I just think they're playing better right now. And, we're going to get to them a little bit, later in our broadcast here when we talk about what we've got in store for us tomorrow. But Drew, what was your take of Philly and Green Bay?
Honestly, now I wasn't shocked by anything, but I was mildly surprised that Philly handled Green Bay like that. But I was more disappointed in Green Bay's performance. I didn't think Philly was great. Philly was very good everywhere, but they didn't pass the ball well at all. I mean, it was not a good performance by Jalen Hurts at throwing the ball. They were able to run, certainly, and their defense played really well. But Green Bay did not play well at all. So I guess my surprise is that I agree with Justin. They're not the big green monster. I respect the hell out of them. They're a great team, but they're not playing great necessarily. And that happens a lot. So I guess that would be my take on that, Coach.
Yeah, Justin, what do you think? I mean, I totally agree with Drew. I think Green Bay looked out of sorts when they played the Bears in the last week of the season. They messing around, and Love gets dinged up and hurt, and they played like crap, and they set themselves up for not a great shot at things. Unlike last year when they went in to AT&T Stadium and beat the doors off the Cowboys. This was not that kind of Green Bay Packers team.
Beat the 49ers.
Yeah.
Right. And they had them beat. They had them beat. What's that certainly isn't that team, is it, Justin?
No, and going back, to that Vikings game too, yeah, they had a decent game plan, because when they blitzed the heck out of Darnold earlier in the season, he torched them. So they dialed it back a little bit. They didn't blitz as much, but like Dave said, they just couldn't get it going. Jordan Love looked all out of sorts. And I don't know if it's because he's missing, his best downfield receiver, Christian Watson. Obviously, that's a killer because he loves to go 20, 30, sometimes 40 yards downfield. He'll catch that ball. He's good for at least one. So I don't know if he was really missing that, but I feel the same way, is that Green Bay's performance was just kind of meh. And I was looking at LaFleur going, come on, man, like wake up a little bit. Like let's do something here. And then you're still trying to run the football, late in the game. And I'm just like, I don't know, but I also didn't I watched that Bears game, the Packers and Bears, their last game of the season. I didn't like that either. I don't like kind of, doing stupid stuff and just letting stuff get away from you. I like to be fine tuned, like if I'm a coach, my team heading into the playoffs. And I just think, they kind of faltered. They were a victim of that. And it just crept into the playoffs. And then they faced, Philly on the road and they got popped. So I don't know. A lot of question marks on that team. That's for sure. I know they're going to have a lot of free agents as well coming up.
Yeah, definitely. The North was really surprisingly, historically strong this year. We thought it'd be a strong division, but not historically strong. I mean, this was amazing. But yeah, the Green Bay and Minnesota need to have a plan A and plan B and plan C in place to really. They're gonna have to make some tough calls. Like we not wasted. We talked a lot with the Vikings, but they've had some tough decisions. The Lions, the Bears are more in a position to make a jump than quite honestly next year than I see those teams making. Detroit's window, I'm being honest, I think it's at least 3 or 4 years right now of being an elite football team. And with Brad Holmes and Chris Spielman and Dan Campbell doing their thing, that draft room, that window could go really wide open, but we'll stick to the divisional round here because I'm jumping ahead. I'm talking 3 to 5 years here. Let's talk about the divisional round. Big time football, and we're going to first preview the Baltimore Ravens and Buffalo Bills game. This is going to be a hell of a game. The North champions going to Buffalo to take on the East champions, and we've seen enough of these teams certainly. And Coach, I'll start with you. How do you see this one shaking out?
I tell you what, if it's going to be nasty weather, advantage Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be an equalizer. I think the Baltimore Ravens, of any team on the AFC, I think that's the one I would start with, the team that I wouldn't want us to see us, with in New Orleans. And the crap weather. Okay, yeah, the Bills. Okay, that's it. Bills are home; they're used to it. Do you really get used to like heavy snow?
No.
In the middle of a football game? No, you don't. It's an equalizer. So now you have two equalizers. You have crap weather conditions, an extremely physical north-south runner that's got breakaway speed. And I tell you what, if you can't tangle him up, he'll go. He'll be gone. He could be what makes this thing a weird thing for the Buffalo Bills. That being said, the Buffalo Bills may be across the board the best team in the AFC. It all depends about turnovers. It's gonna be who turns it over, and really when that happens, and if there's a second half swing. I am going to go with the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to go to Buffalo Bills and 24-21.
Got it. Like it. Justin, how you seeing it?
Well, I'll echo what Coach was saying about Derrick Henry, but I'll give you another reason why. I believe it's going to be snow and it's going to be treacherous conditions. But two reasons why I believe the Baltimore Ravens win this football game is King Henry and Lamar Jackson. You essentially have two running backs that have shown you all season long that they can effectively run the football. I can't say the same thing for the Buffalo Bills. I know they have a great team, and I love Josh Allen, but his backfield is kind of like a mixed bag. And I'm not saying that they're not up to the task, but if I were to put money on it and really, look at it, analyze it, which we're doing right now, I just can't get away from Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I mean, hell, you could run the wing T, formation with those guys and
Good
just,
luck.
just have at it. But as it's going to come down to like Coach said, the turnovers, and Baltimore's defense has got to stay stout because Josh Allen is known to, especially in the snow, he's known to extend plays, and you always have to look out down the field. Hopefully Dalton Kincaid's not running free down there, or Matt Collins on a crossing route or whatnot. So you always got to be leery of that. But I just think with those two guys, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and I'm having a blast right now watching Hard Knocks on HBO Max with the AFC North, and you get to see all the teams in the AFC North prepare and play the games and practice and whatnot. Really paying attention to that Baltimore Ravens team, and John Harbaugh has got that team just dialed in from top to bottom. Lamar's taken that next step. He's taken those strides all season long. Even extending plays and going to his coach saying, let's go for it. We want to go for it, on fourth down and whatnot. And then I love Derrick Henry. I loved him, since he was at Alabama. And I loved him, when he came in the league and Tennessee drafted him. He's just, like Coach said, he's what? He's 6'4", like 250 pounds of pure muscle coming at you. And if you cannot twist him up, get him down, good luck. And he's going to be gone. But then you have Lamar too, that can run, and he's pretty agile and he could break away some tackles as well. So I see the Baltimore Ravens winning this matchup. I see it 21-17.
I'm in line with both of you. It's going to be a close game. You guys have talked about it very eloquently, and I will say this: I picked Baltimore to go to the Super Bowl in the preseason, and I had them going to the Super Bowl until about week 17. Shortly after the Lions got beat by the Bills. Just seeing what the Bills are doing. The Bills, this game's a toss-up. Quite frankly, the reason you guys both make great points of why the Bills and Ravens could win this game, and I'm going to stick with the Ravens because I had them picked at the beginning of the year. I'll be honest with you, 21-20. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a fantastic game to watch. So that's I believe that's on Sunday. So that's going to be a fun one. Let's get to the other two games real quick, guys. We got the Texans, the South champions. They're traveling to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Super Bowl runs through Arrowhead this year, once again in the AFC. Coach, who do you like in that one?
I think this is where the rubber meets the road for the Texans. I do think the Chiefs win this one. I think this is a dynasty era team. I mean, it's so hard to, while we've seen the New England Patriots in that unbelievable, 20-year span, they were so good. Do I think that the Chiefs are going to have that kind of, length of dynasty? Probably not, but they are really, really, really good and have been really good for a long time. And this Texan team is still climbing. They're playing really good. And I think it's going to be a football game. Kansas City is going to win this one. And I am going to go 31-17.
I like that. Justin, how do you see it?
See it the same way. Just, Kansas City's rolling. It's business as usual. Of course they want to make it back, create this, dynasty and whatnot. You got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce and company. I think it's just going to be too much, to deal with on the Houston side with CJ Stroud. You're on the road and, that crowd, bearing down on you, and, you're not, pretty cold. You're not throwing the ball the way you wanted to. There could be, Kansas City's really good. Spags defense. Take a shot every time they say Spags. During that broadcast, but his defense is really good at tipping balls at the line of scrimmage or just that tip drill. They're one of the best teams in the National Football League that do that and intercept the ball. So look out for that. I just see the Chiefs just total domination, 38-20.
All right, I like that. I'm in agreement with you guys. I see Kansas City winning this game 30-20. Quite frankly, I didn't think Houston was going to beat the Chargers. So kudos to them. They're a good football team, and that's their defense. I don't think this is a slam dunk, though. I really don't. I think if Houston's defense is as stout as it was last week, and if Kansas City has any rust from being idle, and I mean, it might sound crazy, but it can happen. And they didn't. I know they had more time than that. They really sat a lot of their guys in week 18 because they had everything locked up already. So, but I still say the Chiefs win this 30-20. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks of his generation. And at the end of the day, he's probably going to be in the same conversation with the Bradys and Mannings and Breezes. I mean, he's that good. But he's still got a career left to go here. So we'll see what happens. Let's take a look at the final game here. The Los Angeles Rams, our buddy Matt Stafford, number 9, like Coach was talking about earlier, the West champions are traveling out to Philly to take on the East champion Eagles, 14-3 Eagles. And we certainly talked at length about both of these teams earlier. But guys, how do you like this one, Coach? I'll start with you again.
I would really think a different score or a different team winning based off of who was the home team, and I would. Again, the weather is going to be an equalizer for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be poor in Philadelphia too. And if there's anyone that could play out in those elements on that football team, it's Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
certainly. I mean, he has done that in that stadium, actually.
Yeah,
and in other places too. I think in Green Bay, and then Chicago. I think he's both faced weather there. Throughout his 12 years that he was here. But the remainder of that team, it's been so out of sorts and different things. And one thing that they cannot replicate anywhere that they were playing, whether it was in Los Angeles, or if it was in Arizona, you aren't going to replicate nasty northeastern weather. So advantage Eagles. Going to go with the Eagles. Low scoring game. I'm going to go Eagles 17, Rams 14.
I
like that, Coach. Justin, how do you see it?
I see it the same way. If the weather was just a little bit better, I would probably put, Stafford, and company, what we saw, in Glendale, obviously just lighting it up. But like Coach said, you can't replicate, the Northeast, the nastiness weather. I mean, it's projected to be pretty grim, come kickoff time. So I think you're going to see a healthy dose of Saquon Barkley, like healthy as in all caps, exploding. That's what you're going to see. You're also going to see, some quarterback keeps with Jalen Hurts as well. So
similar to Baltimore.
Yep, similar to Baltimore. So you're going to see those two guys carry the load a lot. And with the way their defense is playing Philly, they're at home and the conditions, per se on their side, they're just going to overwhelm the LA Rams. But I have a low score too. I'm going to go 14-10 Eagles.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, guys, I'm if the weather wasn't a factor in this one, I was going to pick the Rams.
Sure.
But
absolutely, yeah.
And that was going against the grain for me because I had the Eagles going onto the NFC Championship, but I still do. Because of the weather, I think it's gonna be a funky score. I'm saying 19-16 Eagles. There's gonna be some 2-point conversions. There's gonna be some, chip shot field goals. It's gonna be nasty. Well, if it's that much snow, you're just gonna see ground and pound. But I like the way the Eagles the ability to run the RPO with Hurts. I mean, you could literally, we talked about the wing tee earlier. You could do that there. Kenneth Gainwell, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts, oh my goodness, that they could literally steamroll through that game if the weather's that bad. I hope it's not, I mean, I don't mind if there's weather, but I hope it's not like that game that Detroit played there. I think it was 2014.
Yeah.
Oh, just it was fun to watch, but it's like, man, this counts. I mean, it's fun to play in it though. I'll say that, and that kind of stuff. It's actually it's pretty fun. Hey guys, let's talk about the game we're really all about here, and that's going to be at 8 p.m. on Saturday night on the 18th, which is tomorrow. Some of you on the Roku channel will be seeing this after the fact, but we'll be broadcasting about an hour before game time at 7 p.m. So we'll be able to. That's like a live pick for you, and we're going to give you that pick shortly. Let's do some analysis first, Coach. Break this one down in terms of how you see it and how you think the Lions need to have it play out for them to be successful.
Well, we do need to just maintain our identity and stay on our work. Maintain our identity and stay on our work. Be a running football team. And when we get things warmed up, own the center of the field. Tackle to tackle, running the football, throwing the ball over the middle of the field. Tackle to tackle, running the football, throwing the ball over the middle of the field. And then we can get some big splash plays, with the end-around motion, with JMO or Amon-Ra, some jet sweep. And then we can air it out and try to strike up the band, downfield to JMO if we can, get everyone creeping up and, playing some tight cover, and he can jump over the top of it. That's just, who we are. And honestly, we should be effective in running the football. So, I really do think we should be effective in running the football. We need to do that. The clock can be our friend if we maintain that, a great running game and possess the football. That's going to be a great bolster and shot in the arm to Coach Glenn's group, and that's how I see it on offense. Defensively, hey, we've had some success, a little more success at times with running quarterbacks this year. It's also shown to be a concern still. Mm-hmm. This is the finest one we'll have to play. I think, it's safe to say at least, we got to see him after year 2, but I think after year 2, we'll be able to say one way or another if Jayden Daniels is better than Kyler Murray. And let's face it, Kyler Murray's, still considered a pretty favorable quarterback in this league. Yeah. So I think we're talking about a special talent there and a good team and a guy that's cool as a cucumber. I just think, possessing that football is the biggest thing that we have to do. Defensively, we got to stop the run and don't let Brian Robinson do us. And make sure that on third down, Daniels is not able to run all over the place.
No, it makes a lot of sense, Coach. I mean, you hit a lot of great points there, man. That's awesome. Justin, what are you looking for specifically on either side of the ball that you really want to make sure it happens in this game for you to see success for the Lions?
Well, Coach subtly laid it out for you if you were actually, really, really paying attention in there when he was giving his great analysis, is clock management. How do you really ultimately defeat a mobile running quarterback? He's on the sidelines next to his coach. Mm-hmm. He's not out there razzle-dazzle running east and west and north and south and all over the place. So I'm looking for clock management. Like Coach said, let's not get outside the box, Pandora's box. You have Sonic and Knuckles, Gibbs and Montgomery back. Healthy. We'll see how Montgomery, holds up. I believe he'll probably be on a snap count. But
like Anzalone was.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how that plays out. But Gibbs has shown you that, like he said, he's like, I've been carrying the ball like this, since I was a little kid. I can be the feature back. And he's proven that. So you give a healthy dose of Gibbs, and then, we have, relatively healthy Montgomery. That bodes well, for our offense. Also, too, I saw in that Tampa Bay game, what was really good is like crossing patterns, post routes and whatnot, because I love Bobby Wagner and company, but Bobby Wagner's got some miles on him. Father Time's catching up to him. He's not really, good with that side-to-side stuff. Even Sam Laporta coming across his face, catching a ball there. He'll probably get some yak yards, going that way. JMO, I'm looking for him, make a big play, but be careful, back there. You got Marcus Lattimore, and then you got, our own University of Michigan's own Mikey Sanders still.
Yeah.
So, he's a ball hawk. He loves to tackle. He's always around, the point of attack. So you have to be mindful of him. Defensively, coach laid it out again. You stop, Brian Robinson Jr., it's game over. I would love to see Jayden Daniels try to throw 38, 40 times. He will make a mistake. And also, too, if you're not really aware of Jayden Daniels, go watch the tape before he got drafted. He was at home when he was an LSU Tiger, running the football, and got absolutely lit up by an Ole Miss defender. And that's not the first time either. Jayden Daniels, he likes contact. He does not shy away from it, but make him pay. I'm talking about Alex Anzalone really crushing to him. Jack Campbell's already proven that this year. He did that with Caleb Williams. So kind of welcome to Detroit moment, welcome to the playoffs, and welcome to big boy football. And let's see, where the cards fall after that. The rest of the supporting cast, I'm not too concerned about because we arguably shut down the best wide receiver in the league, Justin Jefferson. So I'm looking at Terry McLaurin. He'll probably get his. He's such a good, wide receiver. And at the point of attack, catching the football, I think he's the best in the league. De'Ami Brown, he's another one. He actually had more catches and more yards, I believe, in that Tampa Bay victory for the Commanders. And then Zach Ertz, who was briefly on our team for, a hot minute last year in the playoffs. So you got to watch out for him too. He made himself some money, some incentives by, catches and yards and touchdowns. So you do all those things, which I think they're fully capable of doing. And look, we've already beaten Cliff Kingsbury. And if you don't know, he's the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator. When he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray, he was calling those plays. So essentially, we already beat his offense. It's just, the supporting cast looks a little bit different. So I think they could be successful.
Yeah, you guys make a lot of great points. I guess just how I see it offensively, I agree. We got to run the football, and getting David Montgomery back is so huge. Not just in the sense that I don't believe he's 100%. So he's gonna. I mean, what Sonic and Knuckles, like you said, Justin, keep your entity still, like you said, Coach. Gibbs and Montgomery together. Get Montgomery spelling Gibbs and just establishing that run. And for some reason, Washington's defense struggled against the run this year. They're a very good defense. You guys talked about it. They're a very stout defense. It's gonna be a struggle, but the fact that if the Lions are able to establish the run early and often, that loosens up that secondary, which is really Washington's strength. That that back five, and then that's where Jared Goff goes to work, and that's going to make a long afternoon or evening for the Commanders if they're not able to at least contain the Lions' run game. Defensively, you guys hit on the head. What's gotten the Lions here is what they're going to do. They're going to play aggressive, tight man coverage, and they're going to blitz. How can you not love that kind of defense? And like we've talked about, these guys hit like sledgehammers, man. I've never seen a Lions defense this aggressive in my fandom since 1980. Saw some really good defenses. But, man, these guys are ball hawks, and they hit, and they really contain. They're a very disciplined team in terms of how they tackle. Yeah, but they had lapses. Of course, it's going to happen. But I've never seen such a sure tackling defense for the Detroit Lions. I'm just really impressed with that. There's so much going in the Lions' favor. What does concern me are two very succinct things. There's one, talked about it, Justin, Jayden Daniels. Coach, you talked about Jayden Daniels. How can we not? He's their best player. He's so dynamic. Let's face it, he's going to get his. Contain him and make him have to throw it to earn it. Contain him in the pocket the best you can. Like that was the same defense against Kyler Murray. Collapse the pocket, but make sure that whoever it is uncomfortable and has to throw early. Don't give him the opportunity to go east and west. It's trouble. The other thing is they're a good football team, and they're playing with house money. They have nothing to lose. I believe they're a 9-point underdog now. or so
9.5.
9.5 now. It went from 5.5 to 8.5 to 9.5. What's Vegas saying? So, and they, like I said, a lot of people didn't even expect them to make the playoffs in the preseason. Many people, I did not think. I thought Tampa was going to find a way. To be honest with you, I had Tampa beating them. But kudos to them. They won. Not afraid of Washington. But at the same time, I think if the Lions can be the Lions, they're going to win this football game. So that's my prediction. We'll give my score in a little bit. But Coach, how do you see it?
Yep, I think I think the score is going to look closer. They're going to cover barely, but they're going to cover. And that score is going to look closer because I think there's going to be some, mixing and match. They're going to got to stay healthy for the NFC Championship game, right? I think we're going to get a nice. We're going to come out of the gates and it's going to be real nice. We're going to have a real good looking first half. And then I think the game's going to get narrowed down a little bit. My final score: Detroit Lions 45, Washington 35.
Whew. Wow, that's awesome. I'll take that, man. That'd be a shootout. I love it. Justin, how do you see it?
Kind of similar. We're gonna, the crowd's just gonna be rocking. We're the number 1 seed. The road goes through Detroit to the Super Bowl, so they're gonna be gassed up, juiced up, and whatnot. They're gonna come out swinging, and I think we're gonna get the Commanders reeling in the first half. Second half, kind of typical Lions, kind of like foot up the gas just a little bit, like cruise control, like okay. But ultimately, I think they pull away. They have this game in hand, 41-27, Lions.
I like that too. I'm obviously I picked the Lions. I see it a little closer. I'm actually going to be more conservative. 31-20 is how I'm seeing this one. I think the Lions are going to get out to an early lead, like a 10 or 13-0 lead, which I think is really going to be essential in this game because at that point, even if they go toe to toe with Daniels after that offensively, you've got the 2-score cushion. So getting the punch in the mouth quickly and getting ahead quickly, I think, is going to be key. But I'm giving Washington props because I agree. I think I could see the Lions easily going up over 40 points in this game. But I think Washington's going to come to play hard. And I'm expecting a defensive effort like we saw from the Rams and the Buccaneers last year in the playoffs. Stout defenses and really tough defenses. So that's how I see it. But man, this is so exciting, guys. I know we only got a couple minutes left, but Coach, I mean, to win this game and go back to the NFC Championship, what does that mean to you as a fan?
I mean, this would be that would be a third time in my lifetime, and I've gotten to see it, each and every time, and really be able to take it in, and then because I have a job that allows me to be there. I may even get an opportunity to be actually at an NFC Championship game. So, it has settled into me that we are this good. And but I'm going to savor every moment of it. Justin, what do you think?
One word comes to my mind is appreciative because I know how hard, it is, to make it back and stuff, like just, NFL history and just watching other teams do it, watching other teams fail, like the Buffalo Bills in the 90s going 4 straight years to the Super Bowl and not coming away with a single victory, so I'm just very appreciative of this team. And it just seems like it was just a couple weeks ago we were talking about, them going to San Francisco and possibly, making it to the Super Bowl. So I'm just riding the moment, wave of emotions here, and I'm just very excited, very, very, not just for me, but for all of Detroit and just really the state of Michigan.
Drew, the final minute is yours, my friend.
Well, I'll say I agree with you guys. I mean, I think it's just really cool. I mean, I was looking back because we're going to do a show in the off season about what were the best Lions teams we saw in our fandom, and I was really thinking this is it. I'm unveiling it. What is a surprise? This is it. I mean, we've seen greatness, but wow, this is incredible. So yeah, appreciative is a great word, and really excited about it, and just go Lions. Let's forward down the field, and let's hope we talk about another NFC Championship next week. So for Coach Andy Scheel and for Detroit's finest Justin Merrick, I'm Drew. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on YouTube so you don't miss an episode at the Sports Peninsula Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter X. Just look for @SportsP Podcast, and follow us to keep up on sports around the great state of Michigan and beyond. You can also catch our show every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on the ESEN Network channel as part of Roku. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.